Hi, everybody. Welcome to my podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Currently using several working titles at the moment, from Cup of Jojo to the Jay Norman Experience, and several others not worth mentioning. This podcast is set to focus around movie and TV review. We do want to cater to a bit of a lifestyle guide, as we've previously blogged with that topic, from fashion, sex, food, entertainment, and so on and so forth. But we do believe we will focus more on the movie and TV critic aspect. So I'm currently bundled up right now with a muscle stimulator machine blasting away at my back. I threw it out doing some jump squats, and I figured what better time than to start the podcast when I'm bedridden on 800 milligrams of ibuprofen. So without further ado, it is award season, and one of the movies that had really caught people's attention during this season was that of Bohemian Rhapsody. I know that the movie's been out for a while. Everybody's seen it at this point. It's grossed over $200 million statewide. But again, it's caught some people by surprise. This year's Golden Globes, we saw Rami Malek, one of my favorites from Mr. Robot, who, season 1 of Mr. Robot aired and I loved it. Season 2 eventually came out. Felt like they tried a little harder. It was a little more you needed to pay attention to. I kind of stopped watching. But eventually did pick back up on it. I am currently about to finish season 3 and anxiously waiting for season 4. And it's phenomenal. He's great. If you haven't seen it, give it a shot. My point here, though, Rami Malek was phenomenal in this movie. Again, I haven't talked to a single person who hasn't enjoyed it. Even my father, who is anything but a movie buff, just saw it yesterday and he was raving about it. From the director disputes to the movie itself, he was actually pretty well educated. And again, like I said, Rami Malek, he portrayed this character great. I've heard people say it was more of a mimicking, if you will, rather than a portrayal. He was essentially just, I don't know, repeating the actions of that Freddie Mercury. So I don't know, people were criticizing the performance from that standpoint. However, I thought he did phenomenal. I admit to not being the biggest Queen fan prior to seeing this movie, but that movie itself has enlightened me to be that of a Queen fan. I've had Amazon Echo playing nothing but Queen since seeing the movie, and it's been fun. When I watched the movie, there was something that had me thinking, he's great, but he's not going to win anything. And it's almost a hard thing to explain, because he did do such a good job. But as you're watching it, you just felt for some reason it wasn't what would win awards. Again, hard to explain, but if you've seen the movie, I hope you can relate. We see the Oscars tend to lean towards favoring that of the artistic movies, more of the films made from blood, sweat, and tears, as opposed to these popcorn flicks. So I'm interested to see what the Oscars approaching. Tea time, hang on. With the Oscars approaching, if Bohemian can back up its 2019 Golden Globe success with some Oscar success. I haven't mentioned yet, it won Best Drama in a Motion Picture at the Golden Globes. Again, another surprise. Getting to my main point of this podcast, that this movie, it's that of one for the people. Again, the Oscars tends to favor those artistic movies, whereas the Golden Globes tends to be more of a fun, laid-back type of scene. The Globes has somewhere around, I believe, 80 voters. Don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure that's around the number, whereas the Oscars, I believe, is somewhere in that of the 800. So again, you're getting a totally different number, maybe a totally different crowd of voters, but you see different things. I know the show itself has always been noted to be more laid back, more drunk, more fun, and again, for that of the people from time to time. We see comedies recognized a bit more. We see a wider range. It's the one show that brings TV and movies together. I don't know, who's seen it, but there was a pretty funny bit on this year's Golden Globes where where Jim Carrey was sitting with the movie section, and they were talking about him, and they were calling him out and said, hey Jim, we see you're sitting with the movie stars. And it's like, yeah, I got a movie coming out next year. And they're like, well, that's next year. So, why don't you move to the back with the TV people? So, I don't know. I was entertained by that. And, I assume I wasn't the only one. But again, Bohemian Rhapsody. It was a movie for the people. I'm going to compare it to that of, let's say, The Social Network. A lot of people were sort of upset that The Social Network was getting recognized at the Oscars the year it came out, just because it was simply, again, more of a people-pleasing popcorn movie that usually didn't get the attention of the Oscar committee. This movie, Bohemian, has just, it's seen, even from a rating standpoint, you saw on certain critic ratings that the critics were far more harsh than the audience. And I know it tends to be that way, but with a movie with such success, you expect a little closer with numbers. But the fan base was really... Sorry, I keep having to drink some tea. The fan base was incredibly happy with the audience reviews, where I believe that of like the 90 percentile. And it was something that the people loved. And I think come award season... this year specifically, I think it's what the Oscars need. The Oscars numbers have been consistently dropping from year to year. No real reason other than like streaming. It's nobody wants to watch commercials. Everyone would rather stream something. There's sports. There's whatever. But the numbers have been dipping, and it's hard to explain. But for us movie fans and critics out there, we want to see it continue on, and we want to see those numbers grow. And I think Bohemian Rhapsody can help that. I think it is a movie for the people. A friend of mine commented that the movie didn't have too much contrast. There was no real difficult time in the movie that, you had to arise from and just beat out. You just didn't see that the movie seemed to always be on the up and up. There was a couple little bumps in the road. But no real difficult situations for them in the movie, and I honestly was okay with that. And in a lot of movies, it needs that conflict, it needs the resolution to come from it. But in this movie, I don't know. I never wanted to see it. I kept waiting for it, and it wouldn't come. Obviously there was the downside. When Mercury discovers he has HIV, and the band begins to break up a little bit, and I don't believe that's a spoiler for anybody, but if you haven't seen the movie yet, here's slacking. But again, it tended to keep people happy through the whole thing, and I think it was nice. It's kind of like those movies where you see the dork, the dweeby guy pick up the hot chick, and it's like you're waiting for that awkward moment of rejection throughout the whole movie, and it just doesn't come. I can compare that to the movie Adventureland, if anyone's ever seen that, where Jesse Eisenberg's character he's kind of a little whore in it. He's got Kristen Stewart's character, who is this, kind of brooding girl as she always portrays. And I can't remember the other woman's name, but she was known as like the hot chick of the theme park. And both of them are essentially fighting over him at one point in the movie. And you're just sitting there like, all right, when's this going to fall apart? When are they just going to point out that Eisenberg is just, the dweeby guy that he's played in other movies? And it didn't happen. And in this movie, again, there was no real awkward rejection, any super down points. And it kept us happy. So my point, again, is that this is a movie for the people, and I think it's something that the awards need. And I think winning the Golden Globe for Best Drama was huge. And I think that if it won at the Oscars, it would just be so big. It'd be just so nice to say, like, oh, this real people popcorn blockbuster type movie nailed it and won the Oscar. Whereas, we've seen in the past, and I think this is what pushes some people who aren't exactly film critics per se away from the awards, that an artsy indie film won, and we've seen movies like Roma and other lower budget films that are nominated, and that's great. I really think that if there is a year to rebound, to gain some of the audience back, why not do it with Bohemian Rhapsody? Why not let them win this Oscar, this movie that pleased so many people? I don't know. I think it's what the award needs, and we'll see. I know that there was some difficulties with the movie, with the director. Bryan Singer was accused of things in the past, and we won't really touch on that. But he was fired off the movie with probably, I believe I read somewhere, like 10% of the film still to be filmed. And there were a lot of rumors out there. I think the main reason everybody really figured out was he had disputes with Rami Malek on the character, and I don't know, there was a lot of tension and arguing and yelling and this and that, and we can discuss this further in another podcast, but the movie had its ups and downs with the making process, but it certainly prevailed, and we've seen it, as I said, just show incredible amounts of success, and I do believe that this was just something that we need, because me personally, I believe that the movies this year were not quite, as good as we've seen in the past. I do believe last year's Oscar noms were a bit better, if you will. Call Me by Your Name, one of my favorite movies of all time, nominated last year, didn't win. As we saw The Shape of Water take home the award for Best Picture, and I like Shape of Water. I think we're in a time where diversity trumps, and I'm okay with that. I do believe that it was looked at a little skewed, a little weighted, if you will, winning. Again, a great movie, directed great, enjoyed the whole thing. I just didn't think it deserved that win. 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri. Again, another one of my absolute favorites, like all-time favorites we're talking too. 2 of these movies last year that were nominated are probably in my top 10 of all-time favorites, and I don't know, it's hard to compete this year with certain nominees. We've got, Bohemian Rhapsody, we've got Roma, we've got The Favorite, we've got Green Book, Black Klansman, Black Panther, Vice, A Star Is Born. A Star Is Born had that same type of demographic that Rhapsody had, with kind of gathering everybody to see it, whereas something, like The Favorite had more of that knit and grit kind of following. Probably more movie buffs went to see that than anything else. The Favorite's getting, I think it has the highest award nominations this year, maybe tied with Roma, maybe one above it, but either way, it's getting recognized. I liked it. I didn't love it. It was good, but I don't know if I gave that a rating just without really ripping through certain grades. I probably would have given it somewhere around a 7.2-ish. Good, not amazing. The acting was incredible. I believe Olivia Colman will win the award for lead actress in that, as she did for the Golden Globe. And then we do see supporting actresses, Emma Stone and Rachel Weisz. I think one of them could very easily take it home as well, but I believe Coleman is the above and beyond heavyweight favorite for lead actress. So if you got any fun bets to make, my money goes to her. But again, the core focus of this was to discuss Bohemian Rhapsody, and again, my point is, let it win. Let the people be heard. Let this movie deserves it. And you know what? It's not to say that a people-pleasing movie award couldn't go to that of Black Panther. I think that was seen by pretty much every